Close your eyes for a moment. Let's step back in time, London, 1855. Outside your window, gas lamps glow like tired little moons against the night sky, their soft hiss blending with the distant clatter of carriage wheels over cobblestones. The air is crisp, damp, tinged with coal smoke and the earthy scent of horses. This is the breath of the city. You turn toward your dressing table, and the mirror reflects a face so luminous, so striking, it could stop poets mid-verse or compel painters to capture every fleeting expression. Congratulations. You are stunningly, undeniably beautiful. But beware. In Victorian England, such beauty is rarely a blessing. Often, it is a trappa-gilded cage with invisible bars, a quiet spark for endless complications. Now, imagine yourself at a bustling evening soiree, the air heavy with beeswax and fading potpourri. Conversations hum softly, punctuated by the clink of teacups, while your eyes wander over the rigidly patterned wallpaper roses, so perfectly arranged they seem afraid to bloom. From a distant corner, a cousin's piano tinkles out a mournful ballad about lost love, slightly off-key, dragging on longer than it should. And yet, amid the music and the chatter, you feel it. Every eye in the room keeps finding its way back to you. Not just casual glances, intense, deliberate, consuming attention that you can't escape. Is it admiration you see? Envy? Or something colder, more dangerous? A quiet judgment lurking beneath polite smiles. Your beauty, once your private treasure, is no longer yours alone. It has become a public spectacle, a topic for whispered gossip that will linger long after you've left. In this society, your face is a currency more coveted than gold, a force both irresistible and perilous. Some look with awe, others with jealousy, and some with an almost predatory interest. The spotlight follows you everywhere, unrelenting, exposing you to the world in ways you never asked for, and in ways you may never control. An ordinary face might blend into the tapestry of life, slipping through unnoticed, but your presence, with those luminous eyes, that cascade of enviable hair, and cheeks like the finest porcelain, marks you as both a coveted prize and a potential source of scandal. Can you feel it? Wealthy gentlemen inching closer, their gazes lingering a moment too long. Older women, their eyes sharp with experience, quietly observing, perhaps whispering, about how swiftly beauty can fade. And somewhere, just beyond your periphery, a less fortunate debutante, her smile a little too tight, already sharpening her wit like a concealed blade. Isn't that just a delightful predicament? The Victorians, bless their hearts, adored beauty, yet harbored a deep, unsettling distrust for it. Too much undeniable charm hinted at temptation. Excessive elegance reeked of vanity. And drawing too much attention, well, that invariably meant you must be dangerous. You, my dear, are the living embodiment of this peculiar paradox. The more perfectly you conform to their idealized standard of loveliness, the more precarious and exposed your position truly becomes. Isn't that just like history, presenting you with a gift that doubles as a burden? This isn't merely a whimsical thought, it's the cold, hard reality you now inhabit. Now, let's navigate a little further into this intricate societal web, shall we? Welcome to the grand marriage market, a term whispered behind cupped hands, never uttered openly in genteel drawing-room discourse. Here, your striking looks become your most potent bargaining chip. Each potential suitor mentally weighs your features against dowries, sprawling estates, and venerable family names. It sounds, I suppose, like a fairy tale. to be so noticed, so admired, so ardently desired. But peer through the shimmering veil of romance for a moment. This isn't mere admiration. It's a meticulous assessment. It's not simply desire, it's a ruthless ranking. One misplaced rumor, a whispered suggestion that your laughter was too loud, your smile lingered a fraction too long on the wrong gentleman, and suddenly your greatest asset transforms into your gravest liability. You're no longer angelic, you're dangerous. No longer lovely, you're a temptress. The very society that elevated you to such a dazzling pedestal will, without a moment's hesitation, delight in shoving you off. Can you feel it? This suffocating, constant watchfulness. You quickly learn that you cannot laugh too loudly, lest it be deemed unseemly. You dare not walk with too bold a stride, for fear of appearing immodest. Even the subtle dip of your head, the way you lower your gaze, is dissected and judged. In certain hushed circles, being beautiful is likened to traversing a tightrope stretched taut across the Thames itself, the icy breeze nipping at your silks. One tiny wobble, one misstep, and the resulting fall isn't just a tumble, it's a spectacular, public catastrophe. Historians still debate whether this unrelenting pressure brought more misery than privilege. Yet the poignant diaries of women from this era paint a stark picture. Their intimate letters reveal endless, sleepless nights, annoying anxiety, and a profound sense of being utterly trapped within their own exquisite skin. Beauty, you see, was never merely admired. It was subtly, devastatingly weaponized. And then, my dear, there's the insidious bite of envy. Your female peers don't just passively admire your flawless complexion. Oh no, they meticulously dissect it. Her skin can't be natural, someone might murmur, their voice barely a breath above the clinking of spoons. She must use arsenic powder. Another would add, their words chilling you. And they wouldn't be entirely wrong to suspect. Cosmetic products of the era, the very ones promising that coveted glow, were indeed riddled with horrifying poisons, whiteners crafted from lead powders and cut with mercury. Arsenic, you heard correctly. Your exceptional beauty often sparked the suspicion that you were cheating, slowly poisoning yourself for the sake of that ethereal luminescence. Quite the heavy price for looking so divine, wouldn't you say? Even if you never touched such deadly elixirs, the whispers would still slither in your wake, damp and persistent. Every tiny blemish could be twisted into proof of vanity. Every graceful fainting spell blamed on an overindulgence in hazardous cosmetics. Beauty, you see, never traveled light. It arrived burdened with a heavy trunk of societal baggage, and the weightier the admiration, the sharper and more venomous the claws of gossip. It's a constant, chilling hum beneath the surface of every polite conversation. Now, let's venture outside for a moment, shall we? Picture yourself taking a seemingly simple stroll along a bustling London street. The air is sharper here, laced with the pungent scent of horse manure and damp earth. The constant rumble of traffic vibrating through the very cobblestones beneath your dainty boots. You immediately feel the familiar weight of glances, some fleeting, others lingering a beat too long, tracing your form. A woman of your striking beauty, alone in public, was considered a distinct anomaly, often bordering on improper. You'd be implicitly or explicitly urged to lower your veil, to quicken your pace, to steadfastly avoid all eye contact. Why does this always happen to you? Because your beauty, they believed, was a magnet for danger. Gentlemen might mistake a polite glance for an outright invitation. Worse still, a passing police officer meant to protect might instead assume you were soliciting. You're trapped in a maddening paradox, aren't you? Conceal your loveliness and risk accusations of false modesty. Reveal it, even subtly, and be condemned for impropriety. It was profoundly unfair. It was profoundly unsafe. And yet, it was the relentless reality every single day. Let's step back from the immediate pressures for a moment, shall we? You might be pondering, but surely, isn't beauty always an inherent advantage? Doesn't it serve as a golden ticket in any age? And you would be right to think so, in many contexts. However, in this specific, stifling milieu of Victorian England, your remarkable beauty could render you utterly untouchable in ways you would never, ever desire. A suitor, rather than seeking your genuine companionship, might pursue you solely for the exquisite ornament you would become upon his arm, a mere status symbol. Let's be honest, who wants to be just a pretty accessory? Meanwhile, a jealous rival, seething in the shadows, could effortlessly conjure and spread venomous rumors designed to cut you down, to extinguish your light before you could truly steal the spotlight. A zealous moralist might even accuse you of luring virtuous men to sin simply by virtue of your radiant presence in a room. And here, perhaps, is the cruelest irony of all, don't you think? The very qualities that artists celebrated in oil and canvas, that poets immortalized in verse, your delicate features, your luminous, almost translucent skin, your exquisitely graceful figure, these were precisely the traits that transformed you into an unavoidable target for ceaseless scrutiny, for chilling suspicion, and sometimes for something far, far worse. You see, it wasn't always outright hostility. Sometimes the currents of opinion were far more subtle, yet just as powerful, especially when it came to something as seemingly simple as a woman's appearance. Think for a moment of Queen Victoria herself. You might picture her, stout and unsmiling, certainly not the dazzling belle of her era, especially when stacked against those more overtly glamorous European royals. And yet, this very lack of flamboyant beauty, some historians suggest, was her secret weapon. It allowed her to embody an unimpeachable moral compass, a beacon of domestic stability, a queen whose very plainness projected an image of unwavering reliability, a monarch too breathtakingly beautiful, you see, might have been dismissed as frivolous, her judgment questioned, her very power undermined by whispers of vanity. Isn't that just like history, turning an apparent weakness into an unexpected strength? This, then, is the heart of the Victorian beauty trap. That shimmering, elusive quality that draws so much admiration can simultaneously make you incredibly fragile. It's a tightrope walk over an abyss. If you are perceived as too plain, too unremarkable, you risk fading into the shadows, becoming utterly invisible. Yet, if your beauty is too striking, too luminous, you find yourself exposed, laid bare to every judgmental gaze, every envious whisper. Safety, that fleeting, comfortable state, lies somewhere in that impossibly narrow space between invisibility and exposure. But oh, that line is razor thin, isn't it? And it shifts, constantly, with every capricious shift in societal opinion, like quicksand beneath your meticulously placed velvet slippers. And so, here you are, standing in the heart of it all. Imagine yourself now in a grand, crowded parlor, the air thick with the scent of beeswax, polish, and delicate floral perfumes. A piano somewhere is coaxing a waltz into being, the notes swirling up to the high, ornate ceilings, while 100 hushed conversations blend into a rising hum around you. you feel those eyes, don't you? A gentle, almost imperceptible pressure from every corner of the room. A smile blossoms on your lips, not entirely your own, but one offered because it is utterly required. Your gaze drops, just so, to the polished floor or the delicate pattern of your fan, because that is what is expected. And beneath the starched lace and the polished composure, a quiet dread begins to curl in your stomach. Is this beauty truly a blessing, you wonder, or a meticulously crafted cage you'll never quite escape? You feel yourself sinking, almost physically, deeper into this meticulously constructed world, a tableau of lace parasols, perfectly arranged gloves, and jackets buttoned to an almost painful precision. Already, you can feel the immense weight of unwritten rules pressing down upon you, a suffocating burden, as if invisible bricks have been carefully tucked into the very fabric of your corset. Oh no, beauty here is not some wild, untamed thing. It is neither free nor light. Instead, it is tightly bound, singed by the rigid stays of etiquette and custom, its edges sharpened by expectation until they're keen enough to draw blood. Every single glance cast in your direction is a silent judgment, measured scrupulously against a vast, invisible book of manners, tome you've never seen, yet one every single person in this room seems to carry, chapter and verse, within their very minds. They will tell you precisely how to arrange yourself on a velvet settee, when to offer the merest ghost of a smile, even how your hand should delicately hover, just so, above the porcelain rim of a teacup. One imperceptible tremor, one fractional tilt of the wristband, suddenly you are branded. Too bold, they whisper, too brash perhaps, or unforgivably vain. This society, you quickly learn, operates on a complex web of codes, far more stringent than any written law. Men, bless their souls, are granted the latitude for their minor scandals, their smoky cigars, their late nights in exclusive, boisterous clubs. They move through the world with a certain careless freedom, don't they? But you, a woman, exist under an unceasing, almost suffocating surveillance. Your beauty, so often lauded in florid poetry, is just as relentlessly picked apart, dissected, and debated in the biting gossip that ripples through every drawing room. The paradox, when you truly consider it, is nothing short of cruel. You are expected to embody perfection itself, yet you must never, ever betray the slightest hint of effort. You must project an image of exquisite delicacy, yet never appear truly weak. You are meant to attract attention, yes, but only the asterisk, right, asterisk, kind of attention, whatever that elusive quality might be. Historians, to this day, still debate whether these intricate codes were genuinely designed to protect women, or merely to exert a comprehensive, elegant form of control. But for you, the outcome is undeniably the same. You feel utterly trapped, encased in an exquisite, suffocating costume that you can never, not for a single moment, remove. Take, for instance, something as seemingly innocuous as the art of walking. Sounds simple, does it not? Just one foot in front of the other. Yet, from the hushed elegance of Mayfair's most exclusive drawing rooms to the very uneven, muddy streets of industrial Manchester, a lady's gait is scrutinized with the precision of a military parade. Move too swiftly, and you risk appearing coarse, perhaps even vulgar. Dawdle too slowly, and you're practically inviting unwelcome stares, perhaps even suspicion. A graceful, almost ethereal glide is the desired effect. But heavens forbid anyone should ever suspect you've spent hours practicing in front of a full-length mirror. Every single movement of your body, you see, becomes a carefully punctuated sentence in the silent, ever-present book that society constantly reads and interprets about you. Your beauty, it turns out, is no longer confined merely to the delicate curve of your jawline or the sparkle in your eyes. It extends to how you move, how you carry yourself with an almost impossible lightness, even how you breathe, how you subtly occupy the space around you. And then there's the smile, that seemingly innocent curve of the lips. In the soft, flickering gaslight of a dimly lit parlor, a single, fleeting smile from you could easily ignite 3 entirely different rumors. A young gentleman might interpret it as a distinct invitation. A rival, observing from across the room, might coldly insist it was nothing more than mockery and an older, hawk-eyed chaperone. She might very well scold you later for such blatant forwardness. You smile, of course, because that is precisely what a pretty woman is expected to do. Yet that very smile, so often praised, can so easily be twisted into a dangerous weapon, turned cruelly against you. Reading the private diaries of women from this era, you can almost feel the sheer deep exhaustion of constantly maintaining such a flawless facade. They recount cheeks aching from the relentless strain of forced politeness, and eyes that blurred at the edges from the constant effort of never quite daring to meet another's gaze directly. It's a vivid image, isn't it? Like beauty itself has been harnessed, much like a prized show horse, adorned with exquisite blinders, paraded for all to admire, certainly, but never, ever allowed the exhilarating freedom to truly gallop. Even the very clothing you wear, you realize, is meticulously designed to be another layer of this elaborate trap. The fabrics are often astonishingly heavy, rich brocades and thick silks, and your skirts are wide enough to brush, or perhaps even accidentally knock over, delicate pieces of parlor furniture. Yet, you must somehow glide through a room with an illusion of utter weightlessness. Each passing season sees your corset drawn ever tighter, as if society itself is subtly squeezing your very lungs. A constant physical reminder that true beauty, as defined here, demands an agonizing sacrifice. You are praised, of course, for your impossibly tiny waist, yet, simultaneously, whispers follow you if your ribs show even slightly. The balance is utterly impossible, yet it is relentlessly demanded. And even when your beauty does win the coveted admiration, you are immediately warned that admiration itself is a dangerous, insidious sin, a sure sign that vanity is creeping into your soul, and that you must, at once, repent before your own reflection. These pervasive codes, you discover, extend their delicate yet ironclad grip even into the very sound of your voice. A truly beautiful woman, they insist, must never laugh with too much boisterous abandon. She must certainly not engage in heated arguments, nor should she ever sound **to** clever, unless it is within the meticulously crafted, safe confines of drawing-room wit, a mere sparkling flourish. Your voice, they dictate, must always remain soft, melodious, a gentle chime, never sharp, never challenging. Should you dare to contradict a gentleman too firmly, too emphatically, you are immediately branded impertinent. Conversely, if you speak too little, remaining demure and quiet, you risk being dismissed as simple, perhaps even dull. It's an impossible tightrope, isn't it? Either way, the pervasive social code manages to twist your inherent beauty into a seed of suspicion. Society, it seems, holds an unwavering belief. A pretty face must be harmoniously matched by words that are exquisitely modest. Yet, the maddening part is that the very definition of modesty shifts like mercury, morphing with every single critic, changing subtly with the atmosphere of every single room you enter. You are left guessing, perpetually trying to calibrate your voice, your words, to an invisible, moving target. And just when you thought you had grasped the labyrinthine rules, religion steps in, adding yet another layer of almost unbearable pressure. From the pulpits, thundering sermons warn eager congregations that outward beauty is a dangerous, insidious, snare-potent temptation designed to lead good men astray from the righteous path. You are praised, yes, as God's exquisite creation, a testament to divine artistry. Yet, in the very same breath, you are subtly, yet unmistakably, condemned as Eve's beguiling daughter, forever capable of bringing about downfall with a mere innocent glance. Are you too beautiful? Then you are sternly told to repent, to humble yourself. Do you find yourself too widely admired? Then you are instantly accused of the grave sin of pride, of vanity. The very sermons, echoing through stained glass halls, seem to ensnare you in an impossible paradox of sin and virtue, a spiritual tightrope with no discernible balance point. This moral code, you realize with a chilling certainty, laces itself around your beauty, binding you even tighter than any physical corset. And you understand, with a clarity that aches, that one single, almost imperceptible false step could very well mark you, irrevocably, forever. Now, let's immerse ourselves fully in the intoxicating, yet terrifying, pressure of a formal ball. Imagine the sheer, dazzling spectacle, the opulent chandeliers blazing above, showering sparks of light across 100 shimmering gowns. The orchestra, a vibrant tapestry of strings and brass, swells through the ballroom, its melodies drawing elegant figures across the polished floor. And then it happens. All eyes, you notice, inevitably drift, drawn like moths to a flame, towards the prettiest girl in the room. You see her there, feeling both utterly exalted by the attention, and yet undeniably endangered by its intensity. Every delicate movement she makes, every whispered word she utters, is scrutinized, weighed, who she chooses to speak with, how long her hand rests in a partner's, whether she dares to accept a second invitation to dance a single, fleeting evening can irrevocably shift her fragile reputation from an angelic debutante to a dangerous, perhaps even fallen, flirt. In this glittering, suffocating arena, her beauty feels less like a majestic crown and far more like a tightly held leash. You find yourself dancing, perhaps, a perfectly executed waltz, your movements graceful and precise, yet beneath the swirling silks and the rhythmic music, you can distinctly feel the constant, subtle tug of that invisible leash in every elegant spin, every measured step. Some women, of course, attempt to master this intricate, high-stakes game. They learn to lower their eyes at precisely the right moment, to project an aura of unwavering modesty. They allow fervent compliments to simply glide off them, like gentle rain from a polished surface. They tirelessly cultivate the deceptive appearance of utter, effortless beauty, even as you pour hours into perfecting every single strand, every delicate stitch. And yet, beneath the quiet hum of admiration, the whispers still find a way to slither in, don't they? Asterisk, she's too perfect, too admired. Surely, she must be vain, or worse, cunning. Asterisk, the trap, you see, closes around even those who meticulously adhere to every unspoken rule. Because, let's be honest, the very codes designed to guide you are often there to keep you off balance, perpetually striving, never truly secure. Historians often chuckle at this, pointing out that so many of these intricate rules, the hefty etiquette manuals, the solemn sermons, the stern lectures, were penned by male hands. These codes of beauty were never a neutral guide. They were threads in a system that celebrated your appearance, yes, but quietly, ruthlessly punished any hint of real power. And yet, isn't it peculiar how we sometimes become instruments of our own confinement? Mothers would chide their daughters with a knowing glance. Friends would lean in close, their warnings a soft hiss in your ear. Society at large became a relentless chorus, a constant reminder to every beautiful woman that her gift was also her most profound burden. You can't escape its gaze, not even in the hushed sanctuary of your own bedroom. The mirror, gleaming faintly in the dim gaslight, feels less like a reflection and more like an interrogator. Asterisk, are you too pale? Have your curls truly held? Is this gown modest enough for tomorrow's scrutiny? Asterisk, you prepare for the coming day, as if steeling yourself for a grand battle, but instead of the cold weight of swords or the reassuring curve of a shield, you arm yourself with hairpins, a delicate dusting of powder, and a perfectly composed posture. The war, you realize with a sigh, is unending, and its battlefield is merely your own reflection. As you finally lean in, a wisp of smoke curling as you blow out the lamp, plunging the room into a velvet darkness, a chilling realization settles over you. The cruelest rule of all, beauty fades. That insidious whisper, a ghost in every compliment, every lingering stare, every envious glance, clings to you. Today, your beauty is celebrated, lauded like a rare bloom. But tomorrow, that very same society will inevitably turn its fickle gaze towards younger, fresher faces, leaving you with only the fading echoes of a trap you never even asked to enter. You open your eyes to a new morning, a pale gray light filtering through the heavy drapes, and already the silent, relentless calculations begin. Beauty in Victorian England, you quickly learn, is never merely idle. Oh no, it is a living, breathing currency, circulating with purpose in the vast, bustling market of marriage. Imagine, if you will, a world where every fleeting glance, every murmured compliment, every painstakingly arranged curl is meticulously weighed like pure silver on a jeweler's scale. The ornate parlor, with its heavy velvet and polished mahogany, transforms into an auction house where futures are bought and sold. The vibrant, swirling dance floor becomes a bustling marketplace, your face no longer simply your own, but a tangible commodity, ready to be traded for advantageous alliances, solid property, and a secure future. As you step into the brilliant, crowded throng of the London season, the air thick with the scent of hothouse flowers and beeswax polish, you quickly understand that beauty draws suitors with the relentless pull of sugar-attracting flies. Young men with ancient, dusty titles, older gentlemen with vast, glittering fortunes, even ambitious clergymen with their carefully measured pronouncements. They all look you over. Their gazes, cool and appraising, scan you from head to toe, as if assessing livestock at a country fair. The courtship ritual itself, mind you, is always polished, perfectly polite, filled with elegantly embossed calling cards and practiced, deferential bows. Yet, beneath this veneer of exquisite manners, you can feel it, the sharp edge of bargaining over a prized object, rather than the gentle flutter of genuine affection. The tightrope walk is perilous. If you are too plain, too quiet, you risk being entirely overlooked, fading into the background like a forgotten painting. But if you are too dazzling, too beautiful, you risk a different kind of oblivion, becoming a glittering prize that everyone desires to possess, but few, it seems, truly value beyond the superficial. Your family, you soon discover, speaks of you as if you are a significant investment. Your mother, her voice a hushed urgency, whispers of the fine match your looks will surely secure. Your father, his chest puffed out with a hopeful pride, boasts of your charms to his friends, each word a subtle push to climb one rung higher on the unforgiving social ladder. The marriage market is utterly relentless, and your worth, it becomes painfully clear, is measured in both your dazzling looks and the dowry your family can provide. And here lies perhaps the cruelest irony. Too much beauty can make you seem utterly unattainable, or worse, deeply suspicious. Men, it turns out, often fret that a truly dazzling woman will prove too expensive to keep, too proud to manage, too difficult to control. So, beauty, this coveted asset, functions simultaneously as both your most potent selling point and a flashing red flag. Consider, for a moment, the vibrant spectacle of a debutante ball. The colossal chandeliers above you glitter like captured stars, casting a warm, buttery light as every young woman glides into the room, each a carefully curated jewel placed on opulent display. You move through the dance, a whirl of silk and music, partnered with various suitors under the ceaseless, watchful eyes of chaperones. Each turn around the polished floor becomes a silent, intricate negotiation. Your smile, you know, must be warm, inviting, but never *to* warm, never crossing the line into eagerness. Your gaze should be open, appreciative, but certainly not lingering for an instant too long. A single, tiny misstep, a laugh too loud, a hand held a fraction too long, and the whispers, those insidious little insects, begin to hum. Perhaps she is fast. Perhaps she is merely calculating. Perhaps she enjoys attention a little too much. The paradox deepens its hold on you, doesn't it? Your beauty must shine, yes, but never, ever burn too brightly. Historians, looking back from their quiet studies, still debate furiously whether this marriage market actually offered women a form of power, or simply disguised their profound lack of it. Some argue that a clever woman, armed with striking looks, could indeed climb far higher than her birth or background might suggest. Others insist, just as vehemently, that it merely trapped her in roles from which she could never truly escape. Either way, the stark evidence is undeniably clear. Beauty might place you upon a shimmering pedestal, but that very pedestal, you learn, can very quickly transform into a suffocating cage. Once married, that very same beauty that initially attracted your husband might later ignite his simmering jealousy or become an instrument of his relentless control. You are praised, celebrated even, for drawing admiring attention, right up until the precise moment you are condemned for it. And then there's the persistent, gnawing danger from envy. Rival debutantes, their smiles sharpened into glittering weapons, watch your every move. Their mothers, cloaked in their silks and satins, spread whispers like dark ink on blotting paper. That gown she wore was far too daring. That laugh she let out was entirely too loud. That flawless face, perhaps touched by dangerous, unconventional cosmetics. A single, damaging rumor can tarnish your market value faster, much faster, than moths can devour, than moths can devour, than moths can bower, than maud sild. And Dactyvel can prachuprien is kaki of so to plek and bebro with I supru you to go with but bit to be at the will of you to you divide to yeah by would type of it the very allure that once brought a stream of suitors to your door can, just as swiftly, slam every potential door firmly shut in your face. The marriage market, you understand now, isn't simply about affection, it's about sheer survival. For countless women, the only viable route to any semblance of security is through a good match, and beauty, supposedly, is meant to be your most potent ally. Yet, sometimes, it achieves precisely the opposite effect. A woman deemed *to* beautiful might inadvertently intimidate suitors who recoil from the potential gossip or scandal her dazzling presence might attract. Others might pursue her solely for display, like acquiring a rare, exquisite painting to adorn their walls. Beauty, in its cruelest twist, can trap you in a marriage where you are adored, admired, and cherished for your striking looks, yet your thoughts, your opinions, your very soul are utterly ignored. Imagine yourself now, seated across from a potential husband in a softly lit drawing room. His conversation is meticulously polite, his smile practiced, almost rehearsed. You sense, with a chilling clarity, that he sees you less as a potential partner, a kindred spirit, and more as a glittering trophy to be polished and proudly displayed. You offer a delicate laugh at his latest, rather insipid joke, though it barely deserves a polite chuckle. Under the heavy damask tablecloth, your mother's knee gives yours a sharp, silent nudge, a familiar reminder that beauty, to be effective, must always be flawlessly paired with charm. And so, you perform, once again, in the endless, subtly suffocating theater of Victorian courtship. You are admired, profoundly so, yet somehow utterly invisible. You are treasured, yet undeniably objectified. Even the literature of the era, the novels devoured in quiet parlors, reflects this profound paradox. They so often feature the beautiful heroine whose fate, for better or worse, is inextricably sealed by her looks. Sometimes she wins a grand, advantageous marriage. Other times she is tragically ruined by jealousy, or perhaps a devastating scandal. Readers, then as now, intuitively grasped the potent, cautionary message. Beauty is undeniably powerful, yes, but it is also profoundly dangerous. Handle with care. The stories, you see, mirror the very real fears of society, reminding every young woman that her outward grace could, more often than not, chart the course of her entire future far more definitively than the sharpest mind or the strongest will. Consider, too, the ever-present shadow of money in this intricate dance. A woman whose features were merely ordinary might find herself marrying remarkably well, provided, of course, she brought a tidy sum to the union. Yet, a woman blessed with striking beauty, but lacking a substantial dowry, was often dismissed as an unnecessary risk, perhaps deemed too dazzling to control, or, let's be honest, instantly suspected of hunting above her station, her every admired glance dissected as manipulative. Beauty, you see, was never enough on its own. It was a delicate ingredient that had to be perfectly balanced with an undeniable air of virtue, an unwavering display of modesty, and crucially, the right web of family connections. Without this precise equilibrium, that very beauty tipped precariously into a liability. And so, each morning, you prepared for another day in this demanding market. You'd carefully pin your hair, the tiny pricks against your scalp, a familiar ritual, then powder your cheeks, feeling the cool, soft dust settle on your skin. You'd rehearse the polite answers to even politer questions, the words tasting practiced on your tongue. Your reflection, a carefully constructed facade, would look back at you with an almost flawless calm. But beneath that serene surface, you felt the strain, a tight knot of anxiety in your stomach. The very beauty that drew every eye, that whispered promises of a grand future, also trapped you within a cage of expectations from which you knew, with a chilling certainty, you could never escape. You'd find yourself wondering, in those quiet, introspective moments, if a plainer face might actually offer more freedom, a deeper peace, fewer whispers. But that choice, darling listener, was never truly yours to make. The world, it seemed, had already decided for you. Beauty would be your constant companion, yes, but also your unbreakable chain. Later, in the quiet hush of night, long after the last notes of the piano had faded from the evening's dances and the polite chatter of dinner parties had dissolved, you'd finally remove the pins from your hair and, with a sigh of exquisite relief, loosen the constricting laces of your corset. Your body would expand with a grateful gasp, a silent rebellion against the day's confinement. Yet, your mind, a relentless mill of worry, would continue to churn. Which suitor would send his card tomorrow? What fresh rumor might take flight and sting you? Which lingering glance from across the ballroom had carried too much meaning? The marriage market, you learned, never truly slept. It followed you even into your dreams, a constant, nagging reminder that being too beautiful was never just a gift. No, it was a high-stakes gamble, and the consequences were far more profound than you could ever have imagined. You step outside, the narrow, cobbled lanes of the Victorian town stretching before you, and the very air itself seems charged with an invisible hum of whispers. It's not merely admiration that follows your every graceful step. Suspicion, too, clings to your shadow like a persistent phantom. Beauty in this era, you quickly discover, is a double-edged sword, admired with wide eyes by some, yes, but simultaneously feared and mistrusted by others. You can almost feel the eyes behind the lace curtains of the neighboring houses as they peer out, their voices low and sharp as they murmur, "She is too pretty," as though mere loveliness were undeniable evidence of a sinful vanity, or even, heaven forbid, a touch of witchcraft. Yes, even in a century that prides itself on science and relentless progress, the old, dark shadows of superstition still linger, waiting to ensnare you. Imagine, if you will, living with that constant, insidious hum of envy. The woman across the street, her face etched with a sour resentment, shakes her head almost imperceptibly each time you pass. Not because you have ever wronged her, mind you, but simply because your face, your very presence, serves as a stark, daily reminder of what she herself lacks. Envy, in this suffocating climate, becomes a weapon, sharpened daily on the idle grindstone of gossip. The gentlemen may tip their hats to you with a practiced politeness, but their wives, oh, their wives glare, as though your beauty were a deliberate, personal insult. A single, innocent compliment from the wrong gentleman can instantly mark you as a direct threat to someone's marriage. You are no longer seen as an individual, a person with thoughts and feelings, but rather you become a symbol, a vessel onto which society projects its fears and symbols. My dear, invariably invite the harshest judgment, the Victorian obsession with morality, a fervent fire that burned through every social strata, only deepened this pervasive suspicion. Beauty, in their rigid worldview, was inextricably linked with temptation, and temptation, of course, was but a slippery slope to sin. A young woman whose features dared to draw too much attention risked being labeled dangerous. Not for anything she had actually done, but simply for how she looked. Historians still argue, to this day, whether this moral panic was truly rooted in deeply held religious beliefs, or merely a convenient tool for social control. But its effects, alas, are recorded with heartbreaking clarity. Friendships ruined by bitter jealousy, entire households divided because one face, yours perhaps, drew too many stares, and countless reputations shattered with no evidence whatsoever beyond a lovely smile. Consider the church pew on a quiet Sunday morning. You kneel there, the hard wood pressing into your knees, your head bowed in prayer, but you can feel, with an almost physical certainty, eyes burning into your back. The preacher's voice thunders from the pulpit, a resonant sermon about the cardinal sin of vanity and the fleeting, deceptive nature of beauty. And you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that at least half the congregation is thinking specifically of you. The preacher's words fall like heavy stones, each one a judgment. Beauty fades, beauty corrupts, beauty tempts. You are trapped, yet again, in that infuriating paradox. Beauty is praised to the heavens in poetry, revered in art, yet it is utterly condemned in the harsh reality of daily life. A single ribbon too brightly colored, or a bonnet tilted too daringly, can instantly turn grudging admiration into outright accusation. Even the hallowed halls of science, the very beacon of progress, seemed to join this chorus of suspicion. Doctors of the time, those esteemed men of letters, published articles suggesting, with grave authority, that women of exceptional beauty were prone to fits of hysteria, possessed fragile minds, utterly unfit for any serious thought or intellectual endeavor. Some even went so far as to claim that beauty itself was irrefutable evidence of weak nerves, as if the very perfection of the body had to be paid for by some inherent defect of the soul. These so-called medical theories, let's be honest, merely gave gossip a veneer of intellectual authority. Suddenly, your naturally flushed cheeks weren't just attractive, they became suspicious symptoms. Your exquisitely pale skin, once admired for its delicate beauty, was now feared as a potential sign of insidious illness. And then, woven through it all, there was the lingering thread of superstition inherited from centuries long past. The chilling idea that beauty itself might be something unnatural, something unholy, perhaps even tied to darker, unseen forces. A woman too striking, too utterly lovely, was whispered about as if she must have bargained for that enchanting loveliness, made some Faustian deal in the shadows. Somewhere between rigid religion and ancient folklore, this suspicion took deep root. Beauty, it seemed, was not only distrusted, it was actively feared. You could sense it in the way mothers instinctively pulled their children a little closer when you passed in the bustling marketplace, in the way old women quietly crossed themselves as your shadow drew near. Imagine, for a moment, the immense weight of that fear, that collective unease, at a lively village gathering. The fire crackles merrily, casting dancing shadows. The fiddles play a jaunty tune, but the laughter around you feels forced, brittle. Someone drops a comment, half joking, half cruel, a barbed remark whispered just loud enough to pretty by half, as if your very features were a crime against common decency. The words sting more deeply than you would ever admit, a cold needle piercing the fragile warmth of the evening. The simple joy of the occasion dims, replaced by a familiar chill. You realize, yet again, that beauty does not simply open doors. No, it also paints a glaring target on your back. Jealousy among your peers is another insidious danger, a threat that looms large and ever-present. A rival with a sharp tongue, a woman fueled by her own resentments, can undo you faster than any public scandal. She needs no tangible proof, only a carefully placed whisper, a sly insinuation. Did you see the way she lingered near him? She might murmur, her eyes narrowed. Did you notice the color in her cheeks when he spoke to her? And just like that, the rumor spreads like ink through clear water, staining everything it touches. Once begun, it cannot be stopped, cannot be recalled. And the more beautiful you are, paradoxically, the more eagerly people believe the very worst about you. Historians, looking back, point out that this pervasive climate of suspicion was especially harsh on women with limited power or social standing. A man praised for his charm might use it to rise effortlessly through the ranks of society. A woman, however, praised for her beauty might just as easily fall, her reputation dragging behind her. She is swiftly considered vain, manipulative, utterly untrustworthy. Her beauty, once her supposed asset, becomes a mask, people believe, one that hides dangerous, selfish intentions. Even the literature of the era, those beloved novels, subtly reinforces this suspicion, teeming with characters whose loveliness signals not inherent virtue, but something far more sinister. You see, in these times, an undeniable truth looms large. To possess striking beauty often casts you into the shadow of moral doubt, perpetually linking you with deceit. It's an exhausting burden, isn't it? Though the world might outwardly admire, it's in those quiet, stolen moments, when the gas lamps dim and the house settles, that you truly feel the crushing weight. The constant watchfulness from unseen eyes, the barely audible whispers that follow your every move, and the thinly veiled hostility lurking in polite smiles. These are the insidious invaders that gnaw at your inner peace. You find yourself contemplating drastic measures, perhaps cloaking yourself in the dullest hues, lowering your gaze to the intricate patterns of the carpet, or softening your voice until it's barely a murmur. But even this quiet rebellion, this deliberate modesty, is twisted and weaponized against you. She's just pretending, they'll scoff. She knows exactly how enchanting she is. Her humility is merely another sophisticated form of cunning. There is, quite frankly, no true escape. Each path you might consider, every turn you make, seems to inevitably bend back towards the inescapable vortex of suspicion. And then there are the peculiar rituals of self-preservation you witness, or perhaps even practice yourself. Families, often with the best intentions, gently steer their daughters to diminish their inherent allure, hoping to sidestep the venom of envy. A plain, unassuming bonnet, a gown in the most muted shade, a deliberate absence of shimmering ornaments, anything to deflect the searing spotlight of attention. Yet, more often than not, these earnest efforts prove futile, don't they? Beauty, like a tenacious wildflower, tends to blossom through even the most careful concealment, and the whispers, once momentarily hushed, return sharper, laced with an almost triumphant malice. Too beautiful, they hiss, too dangerous, too proud. The relentless cycle spins on, without a hint of mercy. And still, somehow, you must endure. Imagine, if you will, those long, solitary hours of the night. You're lying perfectly still, perhaps beneath the heavy velvet duvet, the flame of a single candle on your bedside table, flickering, sputtering low, casting dancing shadows that mimic the relentless questions in your mind. You replay every fleeting glance, every carefully chosen word, every half-heard rumor, dissecting them with agonizing precision. Could you have smiled less brightly? Should you have spoken with more measured tones? Is it truly your responsibility to dull your very essence, to dim your light, just to placate the critical gaze of others. These queries chase each other across the shadowy canvas of your thoughts, an endless, exhausting ballet. The stark truth presses in, undeniable as the chill in the morning air. Beauty, far from being a liberation, is a set of chains meticulously forged from the heavy metals of suspicion and envy. When the first pale light of dawn finally creeps through your window, stirring the dust motes in the air, you rise and begin the ritual once more. You smooth your hair, a quiet prayer perhaps on your lips, carefully arrange the folds of your gown, and then, with a deep breath, you step back into a world where admiration and hostility are chillingly inseparable twins. Your beauty, you know, will swing open some gilded doors with ease, only to slam others shut with an echoing finality. It will undoubtedly earn applause, yet simultaneously ignite the fiercest envy. It will attract loyal friends, while just as effortlessly cultivating bitter enemies. And so, you find yourself once again balanced precariously on that invisible tightrope, the delicate silk beneath your slippered feet, desperately hoping to navigate another day without a single perilous slip into scandal's waiting abyss. As dusk begins to paint the sky in hues of deep violet and fading rose, you find yourself strolling along the cobbled pavement, the gas lamps now beginning their soft yellowish flicker, creating a hazy halo around their iron standards. You pass a charming row of shops, their polished windows a glittering display of the era's desires, cascades of silk ribbons shimmering in the fading light, exquisitely carved ivory combs, and the latest delicate fashion plates from the bustling ateliers of Flullying Apuis at ends, as good to end up, but his cat is so in and out, if this can appear it like a papaya sub. If you to you to pull you do vibe take over with a you to quick you would that you look you think it up a spoil if it was the different with it You pause, drawn by a particularly vibrant swatch of lace, and in that instant you feel it, the familiar, subtle tug of another invisible chain, this one meticulously forged by society's unrelenting obsession with external appearances. Here you see, fashion transcends mere adornment. It functions as a profound moral declaration, a visible pronouncement to the world. Every single choice, the weave of a fabric, the richness of a color, the daring curve of a cut, becomes a bold statement, instantly subjected to the merciless judgment of everyone from your closest neighbor to the stern editorials in the morning papers. And let's be utterly frank, the more strikingly beautiful you are, the heavier, the more intensely weighted those judgments become. The Victorians, in their infinite wisdom, firmly believed that beauty had to be properly attired, carefully contained within meticulously structured layers of fabric and a stringent set of unwritten rules. A gown deemed too bright, or, heaven forbid, too daring immediately hinted at a shocking vanity. A skirt that dared to reveal even a whisper of ankle, utterly scandalous propriety. Even the seemingly innocuous width of a ribbon could spark a heated discussion in a drawing room. Fashion truly is a complex language, and if you are blessed, or perhaps cursed, with exceptional beauty, every sartorial sentence you wear is interpreted, without exception, in the harshest possible tone. Can you even begin to fathom the sheer, suffocating pressure of dressing each morning? Every button, every stitch, every falling drape of fabric is a silent gamble, knowing that a single, seemingly minor misstep could instantly brand you as reckless, or worse, indelibly mark you as indecent. Then, of course, there were the infamous crinolines, weren't there? These incredible, vast cage-like structures, meticulously crafted from flexible whalebone and sturdy steel, transformed a lady's skirt into a magnificent, almost architectural bell tent. A truly fashionable lady, you might observe, with a wry smile, could barely squeeze through a narrow doorway, much less settle comfortably into the plush velvet seat of a carriage. Yet, society absolutely demanded this silhouette. The crinoline itself became a moving testament to one's elevated status, a graceful, walking sculpture of wealth and refined taste. But if you were already intrinsically blessed with captivating beauty, the crinoline, ironically, morphed into something else entirely, a gilded trap. People would invariably whisper behind their fans that you wore such grandiosity, not out of simple fashion, but deliberately, calculatingly, to display yourself, to draw every single eye. Your elegance, they'd imply, was not innocent, but a carefully orchestrated maneuver. A woman of plainer features, you see, could wear the widest, most voluminous skirt and be deemed elegantly respectable. But you, with your natural allure, in that very same wide skirt, suddenly you were a schemer, a provocateur. Even today, historians gently debate whether these elaborate fashions truly empowered women by granting them visible presence in public spaces, or if they merely imprisoned them further, exaggerating every societal difference. Either way, the evidence is undeniably clear, isn't it? Fashion served as a relentless social police force for beauty, effortlessly transforming genuine admiration into a fresh wave of suspicion. The more opulent your gown, the more keenly critics would scrutinize your modesty. And, conversely, the plainer your dress, the more they would mutter that you were merely attempting to conceal an underlying arrogance. Truly, no choice felt safe. The fashion magazines of the day, with their glossy pages filled with idealized illustrations, perfectly capture this frustrating double bind. They would gush effusively about the latest expressions of elegance, while often, in the very next breath, sternly caution their readers not to appear vain, not to draw undue attention to themselves. It's a paradox, wouldn't you agree? An utterly endless, exhausting contradiction. So, let's slip away from the bustling thoroughfare for a moment, shall we? Imagine stepping through the grand oak door and into a softly lit parlor, where the air hums with hushed, urgent conversation. You find a seat near the window, the faint scent of tea and pressed linen filling the space. As a group of ladies, all impeccably dressed, lean in conspiratorially, dissecting the very latest scandal. It concerns a young actress, you learn, who dared to wear a gown with a neckline just a whisper too low, and instantly, unequivocally, she is branded immoral. Her inherent beauty, you note with a cold certainty, doesn't merely contribute to her downfall. It magnifies her supposed crime, casting it in an unforgiving spotlight. Had she been a woman of plainer appearance, perhaps the incident would have barely registered, fading into polite oblivion. But beauty, when coupled with even the slightest hint of daring, is invariably perceived as a deliberate provocation, a challenge to society's rigid standards, and society, as you've keenly observed, pounces with a chilling swiftness. A shiver traces its way down your spine as you realize, with an undeniable clarity, that this very same unyielding rule applies directly to you. Every single button, every carefully tied ribbon, every drape of fabric in your wardrobe is subjected to an exhaustive scrutiny, not merely for its adherence to current style, but for its profound moral implications. It isn't just women who wield this judgmental power, either. Even men eagerly join the chorus of critique. You might recall the sharp-witted satirists whose biting cartoons fill the pages of the morning newspapers, sketching cruel caricatures of fashionable women, their vast crinolines mocked, their towering hairstyles exaggerated into absurdities, their elaborate bonnets turned into objects of derision. In their hands, beauty itself is ruthlessly transformed into a subject of crude comedy, the harsh echo of their laughter seeming to ripple across the printed pages, staining the very ink. You may never grace a stage, darling, but your daily wardrobe, your very presence, inherently becomes a meticulous performance, judged daily by an unforgiving audience. A fashionable mistake, you quickly learn, is never just a simple blunder. It is, in their eyes, an unforgivable moral failing. And then, my dear, we arrive at yet another insidious trap, the world of cosmetics. Those delicate powders and shimmering creams, whispering promises of a flawless, ethereal glow, often harbored a darker, more sinister secret. They were laced with poison. Imagine trying to achieve a radiant complexion with substances like lead, mercury, or even arsenic. Isn't that a cruel twist of fate? The dangerous irony, you see, is profound. In your desperate attempt to preserve the very beauty that garners such admiration, you risked utterly destroying your own precious health. Yet, if your complexion dared to falter, to show the slightest hint of fatigue or blemish, you would be swiftly scolded for neglect. If, however, it shone too brightly, too flawlessly, you would instantly be accused of artifice, of deception. The relentless rumor mill would churn into high gear. She must be using those dangerous powders, they'd hiss. She's undoubtedly so terribly vain. And once again, your beauty, rather than being a gift, morphs into a perilous liability. Now, let's imagine you are preparing for a grand evening ball, a glittering affair under the chandeliers. You stand before your elegant cheval mirror, the flickering gaslight softening the edges of the room, as your maid, with practiced hands, meticulously laces you into a gown, heavy with rustling silk and stiffened with rigid whalebone. The corset, you feel, digs relentlessly into your ribs, a constant, uncomfortable pressure, and the exquisite fabric weighs heavily on your shoulders. Yet you know, deep in your bones, that the expectant crowd will tolerate nothing less than this breathtaking grandeur. You reach for a small, shimmering jewel, perhaps an amethyst or a pearl, and pin it thoughtfully at your throat. But then you hesitate. A moment later, with a sigh, you gently remove it. Perhaps, you muse, it looks a touch too proud, too ostentatious. The intricate calculation, you realize, truly never ceases. Every single choice, down to the smallest detail, is meticulously weighed against society's unyielding codes. And the more strikingly beautiful you are, the more unsparingly people expect absolute, undeniable perfection. This pervasive obsession, it must be said, extends far beyond the confines of women's parlors and ballrooms. Even the broader cultural landscape is saturated with it. Painters of the era immortalized visages on canvas. Photographers capture carefully posed perfection. And even the nascent world of advertising, still in its infancy, harnesses beauty to sell not just products, but entire ideals. A pretty face, meticulously rendered in a delicate lithograph, swiftly becomes the aspirational model of ... It demands a perfect presentation of virtue. Yet, step outside into the gaslit street, and that very same face if too strikingly beautiful, instantly faces condemnation for vanity. Isn't it a cruel contradiction? Beauty, so exalted in the hushed galleries of art, is utterly distrusted in the vibrant, breathing world of life. You feel this unspoken tension with every painted portrait you glimpse, every glossy fashion plate you handle. Beauty is a tool to be used, certainly, but never quite trusted, praised with one breath, yet never truly safe. In countless private letters, women whisper their profound exhaustion. One confesses to dreading every public appearance, not from shyness, but from a chilling fear of judgment. Another paints a vivid picture of the endless, meticulous labor involved in dressing, arranging every curl, polishing every mannerism only to be met with faint, insidious whispers about pride, about impropriety. The very immense effort demanded by society's fickle fashion is then twisted, weaponized, and used as damning evidence against them. The trap tightens, doesn't it? And there seems no possible escape. Historians will later observe that satire, with its sharp, barbed wit, so often targeted women, precisely because fashion afforded them such powerful visibility. The more elaborate the silk gown, the easier it was to mock. The more dazzling the beauty, the quicker the suspicion settled in like a chill. A society secretly terrified of nascent female power cleverly disguised its deep-seated fears as casual jokes and stern moral lectures. Beauty, you see, was merely the convenient excuse. Fashion became the insidious weapon, and women, inevitably, were the casualties. As you drift away from the shimmering beauty of the shop windows, the delicate ribbons fluttering in the gentle lamplight, you feel that familiar, piercing paradox of your time once more. You must be beautiful, yes, but also exquisitely modest, adorned, yet profoundly humble, admired, yet utterly silent. The very fashion that should celebrate your innate beauty instead morphs into its harshest, most relentless judge. Beauty, in this Victorian England, is never truly free. It is always, always bound by invisible rules, and those rules shift like treacherous shadows, ensuring you are always just one precarious step from utter disgrace. When you finally return home, the evening air cool on your skin, and at last begin to loosen the complex lacework of your corset, your body aches with a dull, throbbing protest, but your mind, you realize, aches even more profoundly. You long, with a desperate, quiet intensity, for the simple freedom to dress without this suffocating fear, to enjoy beauty purely for its own sake, without the heavy burden of suspicion. Yet, deep down, you know with a chilling certainty that tomorrow will bring another relentless round of carefully curated choices, another harrowing gauntlet of subtle, unspoken judgment. Beauty, in this world, demands an almost flawless performance, and performance, in turn, demands absolute perfection. And the truly terrifying truth, in this exquisitely rigid society, perfection itself can often prove fatal. You stir awake in the dim, gray light of morning, and already, before you've even fully opened your eyes, your body instinctively remembers the corset. The memory is etched deeply, painfully, in the lingering ache of your ribs and the shallow, hesitant rhythm of your breathing. Victorian beauty, you see, isn't merely about the delicate curve of a face or the luxurious sweep of a silk gown. It's fundamentally about the relentless, unforgiving shape brutally forced upon you by rigid whalebone and unyielding laces. The corset, in its cruel duality, is both a meticulously crafted throne of elegance and a suffocating, inescapable prison, promising an exquisite silhouette while invariably delivering a steady, insidious thrum of pain. It systematically squeezes your delicate waist, lifting your bust to an unnatural height and rigidly straightening your posture until your entire form precisely resembles the ideal, almost ethereal silhouette so admired in the pristine fashion plates. But with each deliberate, forceful tug of those laces, you feel the trap tighten just a little more, drawing you further into its grip. Imagine standing there, a silent statue, before your ornate mirror as your maid, with practiced, unyielding hands, pulls the cords tighter and tighter still. The pressure builds inexorably, a crushing weight against your very lungs, forcing them to struggle desperately for even a sliver of space. And yet, you offer a small, almost imperceptible smile, don't you? Because this, you tell yourself, is beauty. Babe, This is precisely what the glossy magazines promise. A impossibly tiny wasp waist that declares refinement, social standing, and impeccable virtue without ever needing a single spoken word. Society, in its boundless wisdom, firmly believes the smaller the waist, the greater the virtue. And so, with a quiet resignation, you endure. You sweep into the grand ballroom later that evening, your chin held high, radiating an outward poise, even as your stomach knots itself into a tight ball, and your aching ribs protest with every graceful, measured step you take. Historians, with their endless debates, will still argue centuries later about whether most women truly wore their corsets as brutally tight as the caricatures of the era so gleefully suggested. Some existing evidence certainly depicts scenes of extreme lacing, almost to the point of collapse, while other records indicate a more moderate, albeit still restrictive, use. Yet, one truth remains utterly undeniable. The pervasive cultural pressure was immense, an invisible, crushing weight. The corset, in its very essence, became a potent symbol of control, both the rigorous self-control demanded of you and the unyielding control society exerted over every aspect of a woman's life. A perfectly beautiful, slender figure wasn't just admired. It was considered irrefutable proof that you meticulously obeyed the complex rules of both fashion and morality. If, heaven forbid, you dared to refuse this shaping, if you permitted your natural form to show, you risked enduring the venomous whispers about looseness, not merely of your clothing, but, far more devastatingly, of your very character. The esteemed medical world naturally weighed in with its own dire pronouncements and warnings. Stern-faced doctors gravely cautioned against the horrifying possibilities: crushed organs, painfully displaced ribs, weakened, struggling lungs. Some even claimed, with an almost theatrical flourish, that corsets were the direct cause of the increasingly fashionable hysteria, or those dramatic fainting spells so common in drawing rooms. Yet, here lies the dizzying paradox, doesn't it? Fainting itself, rather than being a sign of genuine illness, became undeniably fashionable, an almost coveted accessory. A delicate swoon in a crowded, stifling room eloquently confirmed one's exquisite delicacy, affirmed one's perfect femininity. It was beauty, subtly, insidiously, redefined as inherent fragility. The corset, in its relentless shaping, quite literally created the very weakness that society outwardly claimed to pity, but, deep down, secretly admired with an almost perverse fascination. You were expected, you see, to be utterly lovely and just a little bit faint, as though hovering on the very brink of collapse was the ultimate, most elegant finishing touch to your ensemble. Consider for a moment the sheer, grinding experience of enduring a long, arduous day, encased in such formidable armor. The morning fitting, with its initial sharp tugs, is perhaps tolerable, a brief, necessary pain to set the day's silhouette. By the afternoon, however, as your carriage bumps along the cobbled streets, the once tolerable confinement has grown distinctly uncomfortable, a persistent, gnawing ache. But it is by evening, as you sit rigidly through seemingly endless dinner courses, the rich aromas of roasted meats and delicate sauces wafting tantalizingly around you, that each breath becomes a desperate, almost silent negotiation between sheer survival and rigid decorum. Yet you manage a soft, lilting laugh at jokes you can barely hear, because beauty, oh beauty, must never reveal any strain. You sip water, not from genuine thirst, but because it is often the only thing your constricted stomach can possibly keep down in such profound, suffocating confinement. Beyond the physical torment, the corset also carried immense social meaning, didn't it? Wealthy women, with their ample purses, could afford exquisitely silk-lined versions, often delicately trimmed with the finest lace, soft against their skin. Poorer women tragically endured stiffer, rougher designs, often made of less forgiving fabrics. Yet all, regardless of their station, were mercilessly judged by the asterisk silhouette asterisk produced a waist deemed too thick, too natural, and your beauty was summarily dismissed, deemed unrefined. A waist cinched too dramatically, too overtly, and your vanity was instantly condemned as scandalous. There was, truly, no safe middle ground to be found. Beauty, once again, proves itself to be a deeply dangerous commodity. To be too plain invited scornful pity. To be too perfectly adorned invited searing envy and corrosive suspicion. Imagine, if you can, the unsettling experience of a young girl, barely a teenager, being laced into her very first corset. Her body, still in the delicate process of growing, of blossoming, is already being brutally shaped by the relentless hammer of societal expectations. She quickly learns to breathe shallowly, to move with an unnatural, almost doll-like care. She feels the immense generational weight of countless whispers echoing through time, assuring her that beauty, true beauty, requires profound, often agonizing sacrifice. Her entire future, you realize, is quite literally stitched into those unforgiving seams. The corset, then, is not merely a piece of fabric, a fashion accessory. It is, in its most profound sense, destiny itself, taking physical form. Critics of the time, naturally, found ample fodder for their wit, often mocking the entire painful practice. Satirical prints, widely circulated, vividly depicted women dramatically fainting in public, or being carried off by earnest doctors clutching their smelling salts with frantic urgency. But the biting jokes, the exaggerated caricatures, did not, to anyone's surprise, end the fashion. If anything, they merely reinforced it, cementing the corset's place in the public consciousness. Beauty, it seemed, was forever balanced precariously on the very edge of ridicule. The more attention you dared to draw, the more dazzling your appearance, the more precarious your social position inevitably became. And the corset, in its relentless, bone-shaping grip, ensured you could never forget the staggering price of being truly admired. The irony, my dear listener, deepens considerably when you recall that men, too, sometimes wore corsets. Military officers, striving for an impeccable, imposing uniform, and fashionable dandies, obsessed with their elegant posture, laced themselves to achieve a desired silhouette. Yet, when women engaged in this very same practice, society, with its boundless hypocrisy, immediately accused them of shallow vanity. When men did it, however, society lauded their discipline, their strength of character. The double standard, isn't it sharp? Beauty, when it belonged to a woman, was seen as a dangerous, corrupting force. Beauty, when manifested by a man, was hailed as a sign of inherent strength. The corset, in its stark reality, becomes yet another powerful example of how the Victorian world so cunningly twisted the very essence of beauty into a profound, often inescapable, risk. At night, when you finally loosen those restricting laces, the rush of relief is almost dizzying, a sudden, glorious flood. You inhale deeply, deeply, your ribs expanding as if reclaiming lost, precious territory within your own body. The marks left on your skin tell their own silent story, red ridges like tiny, angry accusations etched into your flesh. You rub them gently, a faint tenderness in your touch, wondering how many more years you're well aware no human body can truly endure this ritual, not without protest. And yet, here you are. I know tomorrow you will find yourself lacing again. To refuse, to simply cast aside the stays and step away, would be to leave the very circle of beauty, to court whispered ruin and social isolation. History, you see, recounts the quiet acts of rebellion. Women hastily concealing loosened corsets beneath voluminous shawls, praying no one would notice as they moved through their homes. Secret diaries, tucked away from prying eyes, confess those stolen moments of profound freedom, hours when laces were cast aside, allowing a full, natural breath. But such fleeting liberties, alas, were precious few. Public life, with its glittering demands, insisted on conformity, and conformity, my dear, demanded pain. This intricate cage of whalebone and fabric, you understand, wasn't just clothing. It was the formidable price of admission into society, a toll every woman of beauty was expected to pay. Historians still debate, whether women genuinely embraced the corset as an ideal, or if they merely submitted to its tyrannical reign. Perhaps some did find a peculiar pride in their impossibly sculpted silhouette, a genuine satisfaction in the severe lines it created. Others, surely, must have despised it with a quiet fury, feeling utterly trapped by the crushing weight of expectation. But regardless of the heart's true inclination, the outcome remained the same. Beauty demanded sacrifice, and this very corset, pulling tighter with each morning's breath, embodied that inescapable truth. It was, quite simply, both the gilded symbol and the sharp instrument of the Victorian beauty trap. As you finally lie down, the lamplight in your chamber flickering low and casting long, dancing shadows, you can't help but reflect on this bitter paradox. This very garment, this architectural marvel, makes you admired, drawing appreciative glances and hushed compliments. Yet it simultaneously renders you fragile, perhaps even pitied by those who understand the toll. Praised for your exquisite form, you are also implicitly judged for the very contortion that creates it. Isn't it just life's cruelest joke that the garment promising perfection so relentlessly threatens your health and freedom, become too beautiful, too unnaturally shaped, and society, with its ever-sharp claws, begins to wonder what unholy sacrifice you've made, what depths of vanity drove you to such extremes. Beauty, it seems, proves not a blessing, but a perpetual danger. The chill of an English morning is already seeping through the gaps in the shutters, a subtle promise of the dawn that will soon break, and with it, will come the laces once more. The cycle, a relentless pendulum swing, continues. Each new day begins, not with the sun's gentle light, but with the familiar tightening of cords. A stark reminder that in this world, beauty is never truly free. It demands your breath, your comfort, and sometimes, terrifyingly, even your very life. The corset, in its elegant danger, remains the perfect, undeniable emblem of Victorian beauty, a beautiful, destructive force, seemingly impossible to escape. And so, you prepare for another day of performance, don't you? This time, the grand stage is your own skin. Victorian society, you see, absolutely worships the pale glow of a porcelain face, the almost fragile shimmer of a complexion utterly untouched by the sun's warm kiss. A healthy tan, that robust sign of vitality, might become fashionable in the distant 20th century. But here, in the hushed elegance of the 19th, it screams of labor fields, of poverty, of the indignity of sweat and toil. True refinement, then, must look untouched, as if life itself would never dare to leave its mark upon you. So, you step outside only briefly, isn't that right? Beneath a parasol, wide enough to cast a generous shadow, not just over your delicate face, but over your carefully cultivated reputation as well. Gloves protect your hands, veils soften the outline of your features, and every whisper of pale skin murmurs of wealth, of leisure, the absolute freedom not to toil. Yet, beneath that admiration, another danger subtly lurks, because too much paleness, too ghostly a complexion, invites a different kind of suspicion, the dreaded thought that you might be ill. Tuberculosis, consumption, as it's often called, the wasting disease of the age, is, almost bizarrely, a kind of morbid fashion statement. You can see it in the art, can't you? Artists painting heroines with those hollow, aristocratic cheeks and luminous, feverish eyes. Poets penning verses about beauty fading like the soft flicker of a candle. Historians still puzzle over it, wondering if society genuinely romanticized illness because it admired such exquisite fragility, or if it secretly feared health in women, seeing it as something too vigorous, too undeniably threatening. Imagine, if you will, the small, exquisite jars stacked neatly on your dressing table. Each one promises the perfect, ethereal glow, a secret youth preserved. Yet, each one also carries a potent poison. Arsenic wafers, little deadly treats. Lead-based creams, applied with delicate care. Mercury tinctures, designed to perfect, but destined to destroy. The advertisements, flowery and persuasive, speak of radiance, of youth eternally preserved. Yet, in hushed tones and private consultations, doctors discreetly warn that these very concoctions corrode the skin, relentlessly weaken the body, and tragically shorten lives. To chase that pale, ethereal perfection society demands, you, quite literally, risk slow poisoning. You smooth the powder across your cheeks, your maid gently adjusting the light, ensuring every speck of deadly dust settles evenly. You offer a small smile to your reflection, but deep down, a chilling question lingers. Is this beauty itself slowly killing you? The weight of expectation, you see, sharpens into a cruel envy, a constant scrutiny. Your neighbors, with their keen, judging eyes, watch your complexion as if it were some moral barometer, a public measure of your character. Too pale, and the whispers begin. She must be using chemicals, driven by vanity, an unnatural pursuit. Too ruddy, and a different accusation takes flight. Vulgarity, spending too much time outdoors, perhaps even lacking proper decorum. The balance, you realize, is utterly impossible to strike. Yet, every single morning, you must attempt it. And the more truly beautiful you appear, the the more swiftly those whispers follow, like shadows. She must be hiding something, they murmur. She must be ill. She must be vain. Think about the profound irony, for a moment, of those popular sickroom novels that fill circulating libraries, their pages dog-eared from eager hands. The pale heroine, gracefully wasting away upon her pillow, is described with such reverence, isn't she? Her beauty somehow glows, even as her health visibly fades. Young readers sigh over her delicate charm, her exquisite purity. Society declares her undeniable, precisely because she is too fragile to ever resist temptation. And yet, for living, breathing women like you, this romanticized ideal becomes a devastating curse. To look genuinely healthy is deemed unfashionable, almost coarse. To look truly ill is instantly suspicious, a sign of weakness or moral failing. But to achieve that impossibly fine line of looking beautifully ill, that, my dear, is considered the height of desirability, a paradox sharpened into a brutal daily reality. Even the art of the era, you'll notice, reflects this pervasive obsession. Painters linger lovingly over translucent skin, the faint blue veins beneath a delicate wrist, the soft curve of cheeks that seem almost about to vanish. Entire portraits are commissioned not to capture character, not to reveal a soul, but simply to preserve a flawless complexion. The result, let's be honest, is often eerie. The sitter's eyes may glow, the skin glistens with an unnatural luster, yet the very humanity of the subject seems to recede, doesn't it? Beauty becomes an object, a fragile mask, admired more for its exquisite fragility than for any inherent depth. And if you happen to possess such an elusive beauty in life, you find yourself trapped within that very same mask, unable to step outside without immediate cutting comment. Medical journals from this period vividly reveal the deep, unsettling contradictions. Doctors, in their clinical wisdom, warn earnestly of the dangers of sunless lives, the severe lack of exercise, the steady weakening of constitutions. And yet, those very same doctors, in the next breath, prescribe arsenic tonics or carbolic washes for blemishes, remedies as dangerous as the conditions they sought to cure. Society condemns illness, yet simultaneously romanticizes its image. Beauty, then, becomes both symptom and standard. The line between true health and fleeting fashion blurs so completely, so irrevocably, that no one, not even the experts, can truly say where one ends and the other chillingly begins. Imagine, if you will, walking into a crowded drawing room. The air is thick with the scent of lilies and hushed conversation, but you feel it immediately. All eyes, discreetly at first, then more pointedly, glance at your cheeks, too flushed, perhaps from the slight exertion of the journey, and the whispers rise like smoke. Asterisk, did she walk here too quickly? How unladylike. Asterisk, too pale, and suspicions stir more deeply. Asterisk, perhaps she is consumptive. Perhaps she powders too heavily, unhealthily. Asterisk, you feel the tightening knot of tension with every measured step. Beauty, you realize in that moment, is not a gift here, but a constant, brutal test. One you are almost destined to fail, because the capricious rules, like a shifting tide, change daily. The fleeting admiration is a transient pleasure. The chilling suspicion, however, feels permanent. Letters written by young women of your time, discovered years later, describe these secret anxieties with heart-wrenching clarity. One laments that her healthy, natural complexion is routinely called vulgar. Another, in a chilling confession, admits she swallowed arsenic wafers for weeks, chasing that ethereal pallor. before the terrifying realization that her health was irrevocably failing. These confessions, so rarely spoken aloud, ... All those stories and whispers reach out, pulling you further into this intricate, shimmering web. But beneath the glittering surface of Victorian elegance, you're beginning to feel the sharp edge of truth. Beauty here isn't just a social minefield. It's literally perilous to your very being. Yet you persist, don't you? The delicate parasol shielding your skin, the pristine gloves, the subtle veil, the myriad powders. To step away, to refuse this silent pact, would instantly brand you as reckless, perhaps even common. These unspoken rules are like invisible hands, pressing down, steering you towards choices that, while they might flatter, are slowly, insidiously corroding you from within. You tell yourself it's a necessary sacrifice, a vital part of your survival. But somewhere deep down, you know the society that praises your ethereal pallor is simultaneously, slowly poisoning you. It's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? Historians today still ponder whether women genuinely embraced this romanticized ideal of frailty, or if it was simply another chain of expectation they had no choice but to bear. Perhaps a little of both. Some may have found a strange comfort in the admiration their suffering brought, while others likely felt only the crushing weight of endless scrutiny. Either way, the pattern remains undeniably clear. Beauty tied to danger, beauty linked with disease, beauty praised in art, and so often punished in life. As you finally extinguish the lamp at night, the sudden darkness presses in, and you catch your reflection one last time. That pale glow, so carefully cultivated, seems almost ghostly now, already fading into the deepening shadows. You wonder if tomorrow's dawn will bring whispers of your loveliness or signs of your sickness. Will admiration hold sway, or will suspicion triumph? The truth settles around you like the night air itself. Beauty, in this world, is always fragile, always dangerous, always costing more than it gives. The gas lamps along the cobbled street outside sputter dimly in the creeping mist, casting long, wavering shadows. And suddenly, you feel a different kind of pressure altogether. Not the familiar squeeze of a corset or the chalky dryness of powder on your skin, but the undeniable, throbbing weight of your own hair. In Victorian England, your hair isn't merely an adornment. It's a literal currency, a valuable asset. It flows through poems, gleams in oil portraits, is delicately preserved in lockets, and, perhaps most shockingly, is even traded in hushed, secret markets. A truly magnificent cascade of shining curls could elevate your beauty to legendary status, yet it could, just as easily, ignite a firestorm of gossip, suspicion, and biting envy. You realize, with a weary sigh, that every single strand carries profound meaning. Can you imagine the sheer endurance? Hours you spend, almost statuesque, while your maid meticulously crafts the elaborate styles dictated by the latest fashion plates. Braids are coaxed and twisted into intricate crowns atop your head. Ringlets, warmed by countless hours of careful tonguing, tumble softly down your shoulders. Additional hairpieces, often not your own, are artfully woven in for volume, adding to the growing mass. Hot irons hiss softly in the air, releasing the faint, unsettling scent of singed strands. Each careful movement is a ritual.